Good evening. We're going to continue with more shaylas which we got this week, during the past week. My kids asked me about shechianu on kiwis, since we got a whole bunch of them. I'm not sure if it's a shechianu, but I would like to know if it's a shechianu and if we should make a shechianu. The answer is no, you don't make a shechianu on kiwi. Alter Rebbe writes in the Seider Belch Sanhanem, you don't make a shechianu only on a thing which you could recognize and you know it's something new. It's a new fruit. And there isn't any old fruits from this fruit. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe, you don't make a bracha, a shechianu on any fruit which is basically you could buy all year round, because you don't know which is new and which is old. So therefore, kiwi, nowadays we could buy all year round. So therefore, you don't make a shechianu on kiwi. Question: do I need to have a special fish pot? The Tur says in Siman Kifte Zayin Yeridaya, Yesh Machmirim, there are some people which are machmer, and they have a separate pot for fish and a separate pot for meat. But with the Eved, Zug the Terezuov, there's no problem. You could cook with the Eved if you cooked in a pot which is meat, fleischige pot. You cooked fish, even it's ben yoime, that means you cooked during the 24 hours. You cooked meat, right afterwards you cooked fish, it's still not a problem. But other achroinim say that lamaisa you could do it even like itchila. The Kaf HaChaim writes you could do it even like itchila. And bepoil, the minig ha'olam is to dedicate a special pot for fish. But in any case, if you cooked, or if you don't have a fish pot and you need to cook something, fish, and you only have a fish meat, a pot which is fleischig, you could use it. Now we know that the Rebbe Rashab was Yom Achmer on it, and that's why the Mishpachas Lando, Rav Lando, the Ruv of Bnei Brak were very machmer on it, because he said that by the Rebbe Rashab in his personal house they were machmer. So therefore it's kedai to have a separate pot for meat and for fish, as the Torah itself says that some people are machmer, and that's the minig oilam. But in any case, any shayla which comes that you cooked, or any shayla which a tam, which is only a bliya, went in from meat to fish, you could be Michael and it with the evet. But yes, it's kedai to have a separate pot. But if you don't have, you need to cook fish, you could still use at least for once a fish pot, a meat pot for fish, and then eventually you're going to buy, it's kedai to buy a fish pot which will be dedicated just for fish. Question: do we need to wait 6 hours after eating hard cheese? Okay, that's a good question. The Remu says in Siman Paites Yeridaya, we know that after eating meat, you have to wait 6 hours to eat dairy products. After eating dairy products, we don't wait 6 hours, we wait only 1 hour. Now the Remu brings down that there are people which are machmer even after dairy products to wait 6 hours till they're going to eat anything which is fleishigs, which is meat products. And the Remu says that's the minig. If the cheese was hard, then you should wait 6 hours, and only then to eat meat, even if it's only meat, chicken, it's not red meat, it's chicken which is only the rabbanan, you should still wait 6 hours after hard cheese. Now what does it mean, hard cheese? What's the gate of hard cheese? That you should wait 6 hours. The Isav Eter writes that hard cheese which we said you should wait means it was aged for 6 months, or it has worms, because when you put cheese and you know how to do it, so it comes out worms, live worms. So if it has worms, or basically was aged for 6 months, then afterwards it is sharp and has a good taste, a sharp taste, you should wait 6 hours. Now we know like this, there's 2 reasons why we have to wait after meat 6 hours. That's a Rambam. The Rambam writes because whenever you eat meat, it sticks between the teeth. And till 6 hours, the meat is still considered meat, and therefore you cannot eat dairy products. Rashi gives another reason. Rashi says that when you eat meat, there's a taste in your mouth, which basically comes, you still feel the taste for 6 hours. So therefore you don't eat for 6 hours. After you eat meat, you only eat dairy products. Now when you eat hard cheese, the Esav Heter says that when should you wait 6 hours after hard cheese? When it's aged. Why is the reason when it's aged that you should wait 6 hours? Because when it's aged, has a sharp taste, and has a taste which basically will for 6 hours be in your throat and your mouth. So therefore, you should wait 6 hours for cheese which is basically gvina kusha, which is basically aged. So when we talk about hard cheese, in the United States of America, only grated Parma cheese is aged cheese. So if you eat grated Parmesan cheese, you should wait 6 hours after eating it. Other cheeses, or Swiss cheese. The Swiss cheese you do have aged 6 months. Now when we say aged 6 months, it means aged, processing aged. That means the process of developing the cheese takes 6 months. But if the process takes 2 days and it sits in the refrigerator for 6 months, that's not considered aged cheese. So again, Swiss cheese you should wait 6 hours, or grated Parmesan cheese you should wait 6 hours. Now that's of the reason if it's moishech tam. If the reason is because it sticks between the teeth, then there are other cheeses also which is very, very hard, and that if you eat, you should also wait 6 hours if there is such a cheese. They say that even the cedar or Parmesan, when you have the blacks, sometimes it will be very hard, and therefore you should also wait for this 6 hours. But if the reason is because it's hard, it might stick between the teeth, Steitchen Yad Yehida, one of the poskim in Yerdaya, that if it was cooked or baked, automatically becomes soft, so therefore you don't have to wait 6 hours, let's say for instance for pizza or whatever, etc. So just to sum it up like this, cheese which is aged 6 months, you should wait 6 hours, which is basically Swiss cheese, grated Parmesan, or maybe there is other cheeses which I don't know, maybe one of you will know that there's a cheese which is aged 6 months, then you should wait 6 hours. All other cheeses, if it's very hard, then it might stick to your teeth, then you should wait 6 hours. But if you eat it only when it's cooked or baked, like in pizza and etc., you don't have to wait 6 hours after that. Next question. I have gotten used to shopping mostly online. What are the halacha guidelines about shopping in a Yiddish store? This is very important in our time, which the Jewish business, all the business got hit very hard with the coronavirus. And a lot of people got used to shopping online. So do I need to support the local shops or not? Now, first of all, there's a mitzvah of and today's day when the local shops are struggling, yes, there's a mitzvah of buying by them. Als mitzvah tzedukah. Mitzvah tzedukah is to make sure a store shouldn't go out of business. And yes, you should buy, in any case, by the local store. That's number one. But what is the halachic? What do I need? What do I don't need? Not because of tzedukah. All year round. Do I need to buy only by a yid or not? Now, in Shulchan Aruch, you're not going to find this halacha. In Shulchan Aruch, there's no mention on it. But the Remu, in one of his shuvas, has a shuva about this. And over there he writes that there is a choif to buy by a Yid rather than a Goy. And we know, Rashi brings it down, when you buy something, you should buy from a Jewish owner. When you sell something, you should sell it for a Yid. So basically, the Ramur writes that yes, you have to buy and sell for a Yid, preferably for a Yid than for a Goy. What is the Geder that you should? That means when they are the same price. Pashto when the same price. The Ramur over there writes that even when a Yid, a Jew is more expensive than a Goy, you still have to buy the Yid rather than the Goy. Now what's the Geder? How much could it be more expensive and you should still have to buy the Yid? Now there isn't a clear thing on it, but we see in the Achroinim such a thing as it could, even if the Yid is more than a shtis means about 16%, if he's more than a Goy, till 60%, you should still buy a Yid rather than a Goy. We see it by Oinua, also we have such a thing as a shtis. So that's the Geder which the Achroim say, till 16%, you should pay more for a Yid than for a Goy. Now we have to remember one thing. If there is a set price on an item, and a Yid, he decides he wants to ask whatever he wants, or what he wants to ask more, since there's a set price on it, you don't have to buy for a Yid, even it's less than 16%, because since a thing is a set price and one guy hikes up the price, you don't have to buy. But we're talking about the thing which doesn't have a set price, then we should prefer a Yid till about 16%. But we have to, one more thing, have in mind. If it's not the same product, for instance, it could be the same product, but the Goy gives you a better return policy. So automatically it's not the same product. Then you don't have to buy bar Yid. You have to buy bar Yid rather than a Goy till the 16% is only when the products are basically the same. But if there is the same product, let's say for instance you have a product which the company from what the Yid sells is not such a good product, or doesn't have a good guarantee on it, or the return policy is not such a good return policy, and you go to a Goy and you have good warranties and good return policies, so that means that the item which you buy is a different item, then you don't need to buy a Yid, even if it's in the same price, because it's a different item. But again, we have to understand, you have to remember that it's preferable in any case, and especially in this time, to purchase items by Yid Dafke, because the noisiv of the halacha of the Ramah is also the Indian of a chayach to support them. But again, if it's overly priced, then you don't need to do that. Now, if you have a terche, if you have a store, a grocery store which is right next to you, and the Yiddish store is 3 blocks, you have to walk 3 blocks, that means terche de gifa, that's not a reason that you should not buy by the Yid. The poskim say that's not a good reason. Only when he's overpriced 16%, but if it's only terche de gifa, that's not a good reason not to buy by Yid. Next question. Now is the census. Am I allowed to answer the questions? Very good question. 10 years ago, I wrote a whole article on this subject, and I came to the conclusion that there's no problem of filling out the census and you should do it. What's the reason? We know that counting a Yid is a skon. That by David HaMelech counted the Jewish people, and Rahman al-Islam, there was a Magaifa. So we know we cannot count the Jewish people. So the question is now, if we could count the census, because you have to count, you count your family, you count the Yidden, if it's mutter to write out the census. The answer is yes, you are permitted. Why? Because there's a lot of tzarifim which we could put together, and therefore there's no problem to doing it. We know there are Shittas Rambam, which basically writes that if it's counting aliday duvar achar, it's not a direct counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's not this way, then there's no problem. It's called manias aliday duvar achar, then there's not a problem with it. We have a Ralbag which writes, even it's a direct, but if you even that means if it's just Yidden itself and it's through writing, you're putting down on paper, that's not considered counting. That means if I count, right, I have 17 people in my household, even though I counted 17 people, it is in writing, and that's why there's no problem. There is other poskim which say that only to count the ganz Klal Yisrael is a problem. Counting a part of Klal Yisrael is no problem. Now in the United States of America, we only count the Jewish people in the United States and not the whole Klal Yisrael at a whole. The Yufel Alev brings a reason because it's easier to count Yidden only in Eretz Yisrael, not a Chitz Loretz. So we are in Chitz Loretz. Other poskim write that it's only a Isser when you count Yidden. If you count the whole Uchlosiyah, the whole population, and in the counting is also Jewish people, that's not a problem. Only when you count direct Jewish people. So therefore, over here the census is not a counting of the Jewish people, it's counting the whole, basically the whole population, and that's not a problem. And a final, some poskim say, since the final calculation is going to be by computer, so there's no problem. So you putting all the together, there's no problem counting and putting down on paper how much there is in your whole household and giving it in for the city. And other poskim say that you should do it because the counting is for a reason. That means to know how many hospitals should be in this area because it goes according to the population. So it's a very big Letzoirich. In Letzoirich there's no problem to counting at all. So therefore, yes, it is permitted to fill out the census papers and you should do it. Question. A question which basically I was asked before Yom Tov. It's not so much in the guide this Yom Tov. What's kedai to just mention it because it's a cute shaila. A person in Eretz Yisrael writes that in Eretz Yisrael Shavuos is only Friday. Shabbos is a regular Shabbos. Now he davens early. Every Shabbos he davens early. So he wants to know if he can daven early this week Shabbos too and eat the Suda. And if he's permitted, what should he do by benching? Since he's benching still during the day, or if not during the day, he started the Suda during the day, should you say Yalav Yuvoi? Or he should say Retzai. Now the answer is, in this particular case, that if you make Shabbos early and you wash yourself, the most preferable thing is that basically you should eat a kezayis after it gets dark, and that's preferable for everybody who eats and makes early Shabbos, that he should eat kezayis. The Magen Avraham brings down that you should eat the kezayis after when it gets dark, and the Alter Rebbe brings it down also Halacha. So therefore you should eat the kezayis afterwards, and then you will say Babench, you can say Retzai, and you are not going to say Yalav Yuvoi. Question. At what point is someone considered a specific Pikuach nefesh? We hear a lot lately, Pikuach nefesh. What is the gather of Pikuach nefesh? Is it determined by numbers? If yes, what are they? When is something just a risk, like driving a car or alike? Okay, this is a very interesting question, and just bring it in a brief one. Is the gather is basically is which Reb Shlomo Zalman in his Sefer Shilch Shlomo writes the gather that when it comes to a sickness or anything which people are afraid of it, even a regular during weekdays, that is considered a Pikuach nefesh. That means if it comes some kind of sickness, or it comes some kinds of virus, or it comes some times of tsunami, or whatever it should be, and people are really afraid, when it comes any time of the day in the middle of the week, they will be afraid. So that's considered a Pikuach nefesh. That means they are afraid because of Pikuach nefesh. That's considered Pikuach nefesh, that you are allowed to make Chil Shabbos. Anything which people are not afraid, so basically it's not considered an inner of Pikuach nefesh. Or let me put it a little bit in other words. Anything which is normal, you're going normal about your life, and even the dusha barabim, it is not considered suf Pikuach nefesh. That's why you are permitted to drive. You're allowed to drive, even so it might be some kind of accident. But that you're going about your life, and people are not afraid to drive. And the same will be about other things too. Anything which basically during the weekdays nobody will be afraid, and they're going about their lives, that's not considered suf Pikuach nefesh, even though there are people who get killed, or there might people who die. But that's another thing which people are afraid. But when it comes to something extraordinary, which people on a regular weekdays are concerned, are nervous, and are afraid of it, that is the afraid of it because of Pikuach nefesh. Has to be some kind of connection with Pikuach nefesh. So therefore, that is considered already a gather of Pikuach nefesh, and you are permitted to make Chil Shabbos. Now, apply it also to all other things which has to do with Pikuach nefesh. Davening, virus, coronavirus, davening with a minyan, davening in a shul, going in a mikveh. If there is a pachet to doing it, that because you're going to get sick and people will die, and that's the thing which a person is afraid, that is a gather of suf Pikuach nefesh, and you got to consider it and have to stay away of it. Okay, we're going to stop here, and hopefully we're going to continue another time. Thank you and good night.